Welcome to another edition of Badger Beat, your look at the University of Wisconsin football team, joined today by Tom Oates, Tom Mulhern of the Wisconsin State Journal. I'm Adam Mertz. We're heading into the spring football game on Saturday here at Camp Randall, 4 p.m. game. Tom Oates, I want to talk to you what you've seen in the spring so far that is the good of the Badgers.
Well, I think the best thing is the depth at tailback. Monty Ball hasn't even appeared to scrimmage. They're not letting him get close to contact, or real serious contact, and yet they just have an abundance of talent at the running back position. James White, is a 1,000 yards rusher. Everybody that looks at Melvin Gordon says, "Oh Lord, he's got a chance to be a really, really good player," and on down the line. And it's part of the reason they're experimenting with trying to get more tailbacks on the field at one time.
Tom Mulhern, the flip side, where's some shortcomings, some areas that are really going to still need to be addressed after spring?
I'd say wide receivers probably the number one area. Jared Aberderis not participating all spring because of a foot injury. They're really hoping somebody takes a step forward, and really it hasn't happened yet. There's been glimpses. A guy like Chase Hammond, Marquise Mason have had flashes, but nothing consistent at all. But the flip side of that is I think they've got some really good, young, talented tight ends in this program, an abundance of them, and guys that can do multiple things. And from what we've seen of the new offensive coordinator, Matt Canada, he's just about as high on tight ends as Paul Christ was. So I think that may help make up for some of the shortcomings they have. And, of course, the receiver position will look a lot better when Aberderis is there in the fall as well.
So, kind of the overview on offense then. They're trying things. They're trying new stuff, new formations, new personnel groupings. What's the stuff that's caught your eye that way?
Well, the big thing is using Monty Ball and James White in the backfield together. And, it's been talked about, and even they tried it a little bit last year, implementing at least, didn't really get to it a whole lot. But I think they're really committed to it now. And it's not just that, they got two really good players. It's one of their deepest positions, as Oatsy said. But there's some creative things that they can do out of that as well, using James White flanked out, using James White in speed sweeps, which are a big part of the offense to, open up the tackle box, get one more defender out of there that makes it tough to stop Monty Ball then. So I've been pretty impressed with the creative ways that they've tried to get those guys on the field together.
One of the things that Paul Christ was always so good at was using the talent he had, adapting to the talent he had, making best use of it. That's why it's refreshing with Paul Christ gone to see Matt Canada experimenting and looking at his talent and trying to figure out ways to use all those tight ends, to use all those running backs. And that's one thing we've seen through the spring here is that they're looking, they're throwing some things out there and trying to take a peek at them. And that kind of creativity only bodes well for that transition at offensive coordinator.
We can touch real quickly on the defensive side of the ball. 4 guys out, 4 projected starters out this spring. That seems to be the case a lot of springs. What have you seen there, maybe individually, of guys that have progressed or things that you think that are still going to need to address?
Well, what I think they really need to look for is a playmaker on their front 4. It's one thing they missed last year. How many times did J.J. Watt get them off the field the year before? And just by making one play, he gets the defense off the field. And they missed that last year. That search goes on. I think Bo Allen is one guy who's kind of stepped up on the inside. They moved Warren Herring in there, and he's made a play or two in that kind of regard. They have a bunch of defensive ends, including some young ones who haven't really seen action, who are going to, I think, have a chance to play because if they can step up and make some of those kinds of plays. And David Gilbert isn't practicing, so he's the kind of guy you look to. He's the veteran who has been held back by injury, but you look at him and you say that kid's got the talent to make some plays. So, but I guess you look for some of the young defensive ends more than anything to kind of flash and make a big play.
The spring game has been something that's been talked about for a few years here, that they've tried to drive it up. They've tried to increase. They've tried to get crowds like you get at Nebraska and Ohio State, which had 81,000 over the weekend. Today, Brett basically said that they were, hands off and no expectations. And really, when you're not having Monty Ball in there, when Danny O'Brien isn't yet on campus, it's not going to have that sizzle, is it?
Yeah, and Brett talked about trying to create an atmosphere during the game that's at least somewhat similar to a Saturday in Camp Randall in the fall, and then just also acknowledge that that's probably going to be impossible. But my point is I don't think they owe the fans a big show. They need to get out of this game and be smart and not have any injuries. And it's been a pretty good spring that way without injuries. And, this is a chance to show the fans a little bit, a product and some new young players coming up. But I think it makes all the sense in the world not to risk a guy like Monty Ball out there. I don't think there's any reason in the world they need to trot him out for one tackle.
Seems to me the spring game at Wisconsin lost its sizzle when Lee Evans got hurt, and caution became the kind of the word of the order, word of the day since then. I know that there's been a push the last couple of years to try and jack up the attendance, but you can't have both. I mean, I think if you want to go out and try and put on a really good show, maybe you can attract more people. I think you're going to see the usual crowd, 15, 20,000, something like that, and that's fine. Maybe that's just the way it's going to be here at Wisconsin.
Thanks for joining us. We'll have coverage all week leading into Saturday's spring game.